Dear friend, perhaps no one in this life has never sighed at things that go against their wishes. Some are sad because their work never goes as desired. Some suffer because their relationships are unfulfilled. Still others live every day in worry about money, about their children, about the future. Each morning we wake up, often carrying these burdens. We think that external circumstances, that others, have caused us suffering. However, if we sit back for a moment, we will realize that this suffering does not only come from outside, but largely stems from our own mind's perception. Someone recounted that with the same sudden rain shower, some would furiously curse the sky, complaining that it soaked their clothes and made the road slippery. But in that same rain, others would smile, silently taking a long breath to feel the smell of damp earth, to see the rain refreshing the lush green shoots. The scenery is one, but the state of mind is different. Thus, joy or suffering does not lie in the rain, but in our perspective. That is what the Buddha once taught. The mind is the forerunner of all phenomena. When our mind is filled with afflictions, everything becomes heavy. When our mind is clear, even if circumstances haven't changed, we still find peace and joy. Many times we ask ourselves why we live perpetually in deadlock, why happiness remains so distant. We don't realize that it is our mind, full of desires, comparisons, and resentment, that prevents us from finding peace. Someone says an unintentional word, and we immediately take it to heart, nurturing sadness and anger. When work becomes difficult, we immediately attribute everything to fate, to those around us. However, these reactions only make us more tired, just like carrying a backpack full of rocks on our back. The further we go, the heavier it gets. Whereas if we just put it down a little, the path would be so much lighter. Just think, when we change our perspective, all suffering can suddenly alleviate. People who often complain, who knows they might be enduring pain we don't understand. Those who hurt us, who knows they might just be acting out of a lack of love or harsh circumstances. Who knows, it might even be an opportunity for us to grow, like a lotus flower that must rise from the mud to emit its fragrance. Sometimes, adversity itself is the fertile ground that nurtures wisdom and patience. Right now, you can try a small practice. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, then exhale slowly. As you inhale, smile at yourself. As you exhale, whisper in your mind that everything is perceived by your own mind. Just for a minute, you will feel your body lighter, and your worries will seem to subside. The path to happiness is not about trying to change all external aspects of life, but about turning inward to adjust our own mind. Once we know how to reflect on our mind, we truly see the root cause of suffering and learn to let go of unnecessary things. That is the journey back, the journey that the Buddha and meditation masters have repeatedly reminded us of. When the mind changes, circumstances also change. And in each tranquil breath, we realize that happiness has never truly left. It only waits for us to open our hearts to receive it. Have you ever found yourself getting angry over something trivial, only to regret later being hot-tempered and blaming others too hastily? In daily life, sometimes just an unkind glance, a slightly harsh word, or an unintentional action from someone can make us furious. That anger agitates our mind, makes our heart race, and our breathing become rapid. And in that moment, we feel as if the whole world is wrong, and only we are right. But if we pause for a moment, we will realize that behind those actions we consider wrong, there is often a story, an experience, a circumstance that we haven't had time to learn about. Human beings inherently carry their own worries and difficulties in their hearts. Like an iceberg, we only see the part floating above, but how many can see through the submerged part below? When we only see through our own narrow eyes, we easily conclude, judge, and blame. But when we try to put ourselves in the other person's shoes, try to look with eyes of compassion, we will see things completely differently. Anger turns into empathy. Sadness transforms into sharing. And our mind also becomes much lighter. There's an everyday story like this. Mai, a student, often went to the market near her school to buy vegetables. At a small corner of the market, there was an old woman named Ms. Lan, over 60, who specialized in selling fresh vegetables. Miss Lan's face was thin, and her posture was hunched from years of hardship. One morning, as usual, Mai stopped by to buy a bunch of vegetables. But when she got home, she noticed the weight of the vegetables seemed lighter than what she had paid for. Annoyance welled up in Mai's heart. She immediately thought that Ms. Lan had deliberately cheated her, short-weighing to earn a few extra pennies. At that moment, in her mind, the image of the gentle old woman suddenly became that of a dishonest person. That afternoon, Mai returned to the market. As soon as she saw Ms. Lan, she couldn't help but scold her. How can you sell things and short-weigh them? Customers trust you, and yet you cheat them. Mai's voice was full of anger, her eyes suspicious. Ms. Lan was momentarily stunned, her eyes welling up, her voice trembling as she softly said, "My dear, I didn't mean to. This morning, my husband is seriously ill. I was selling and worrying at the same time. It must have been a mistake in weighing. I wouldn't dare to cheat." Hearing this, Mai suddenly paused. For the first time, she realized that behind that frail appearance was a whole burden of life. It turned out Ms. Lan was not just a vegetable seller. She was also a wife caring for her sick husband. Because of her worry, she made a mistake in weighing without realizing it. The anger in Mai suddenly vanished, replaced by emotion and compassion. She apologized for her temper and gently inquired about her husband's health. From that day on, every time she went to the market, Mai would often stay longer, chat a bit, and sometimes even help Ms. Lan arrange vegetables. A small story, but it left a big lesson in us. If she had only looked from one side, Mai would have held on to her anger and thought Ms. Lan was a bad person. But when she tried to put herself in Ms. Lan's shoes, looking from her circumstances, Mai realized a completely different truth. The anger vanished, and compassion opened up. This is the power of understanding. In life, we very often encounter similar situations. A colleague answers curtly, making us feel disrespected. A friend arrives late, making us blame them for not respecting us. A family member says harsh words, hurting us. But if we pause, who knows? That colleague might have just had a sleepless night because their child was sick. That friend might have been stuck in traffic. Or that family member might be carrying too much stress without knowing how to release it. When we know how to see things from that perspective, we will find everything lighter. The Buddha once taught that compassion is the root, and wisdom is the pursuit. Compassion is the ability to empathize, understand, and feel sorrow for the suffering of others. Wisdom is a clear insight, not rushing to judgment, knowing how to recognize the true nature of things. When these two are present together, we will reduce a lot of suffering. Sometimes it is precisely because we place our ego too highly. We refuse to step into the other person's shoes to understand, and so suffering persists. The ego is like a closed door, while understanding is like the key that opens it. Once the door is open, light floods in, cool breezes blow, and shadows naturally disappear. Try to recall a time you recently got angry. How did your mind feel then? Was your breathing rapid, your voice higher than usual, and your heart churning with irritation? And after knowing the truth, knowing the other person's circumstances, how did you feel? The anger turned into compassion. It is this change in perspective that reduces our suffering. To practice, right now, you can try a small thing. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath and exhale slowly. Then think of someone who recently upset or angered you. Ask yourself, if I were in their shoes, would I have acted differently? If I carried their worries, would I have avoided making mistakes? Answer with sincerity in your heart, and you will find the anger gradually dissipates. In its place will be understanding and love. Just like in the story of Mai and Ms. Lan, a word of blame can create distance between hearts, but understanding can bring souls closer. Life inherently has many sorrows. If we keep blaming and maintaining a narrow perspective, those sorrows will only multiply. But when we know how to put ourselves in another's place, we are opening our heart to receive tolerance. And from that tolerance, we find peace for ourselves. The Buddha once said a simple yet profound statement. Understanding is another name for love. Understanding not only comforts others, but also heals us. Because when we no longer feel anger or blame, our mind becomes light and peaceful. That is true happiness, a happiness that comes from within, independent of external circumstances. In daily life, there is a very familiar emotion that comes quickly and goes just as quickly, but leaves heavy consequences in people's hearts. That is anger. Each of us has been angry at least once, sometimes over big things, and sometimes over something very trivial. An unintentional word, a careless action, a minor delay can all turn into a pfa that burns away the peace in our soul. After the anger passes, we often leave a void of regret in our hearts. Sometimes it's a few seconds of awkwardness. Sometimes it's a lifetime of lingering remorse. Try to imagine, heading to work in the morning, traffic is heavy, and suddenly someone cuts you off. We immediately honk loudly, yell, even utter harsh words. In that moment, we feel satisfied with our reaction. But once we calm down, fatigue still lingers in our hearts. Or sometimes within the family, over a small matter like a broken bowl or a slip of the tongue, we get angry, making the atmosphere heavy, children scared, and spouses distant. That is the harm of anger. It's like a fire that can burn down family affection, incinerating inherent peace. The reasons why people easily get angry are actually numerous, but the root often lies in two things. First is physical exhaustion. When we are exhausted, lack sleep, or are stressed from work or life, our mind becomes fragile and easily agitated. Second is each person's ego. When we are used to putting ourselves at the center, wanting everything to go our way, anything that goes against our wishes seems to make us explode. The bigger the ego, the more anger. Therefore, anger doesn't just come from external circumstances, but also from an uncultivated inner self. The harm of anger cannot be underestimated. In a family, a fit of anger can drive parents and children apart and make spouses distant. At work, a shout can make colleagues lose trust and superiors lose goodwill. In friendship and love, anger can turn into cracks that are hard to heal. And above all, we ourselves are the ones who suffer the most. When angry, the heart beats you out. Blood pressure rises. Breathing is rapid. The body is tense. And the mind is chaotic. Anger not only hurts our soul, but also harms our health. There's a small story about Mr. Nam, a bricklayer in a rural area. Nam worked hard all day, toiling under the sun, his hands and feet covered in cement. In the evening, he returned home with an exhausted body, only wishing for a little peace. But as he stepped in, he saw his young son, T, only 6 years old, playing with crayons, drawing all over the white wall. The drawings were innocent scribbles, but in Nam's eyes, at that moment, it was just messiness. His fatigue, combined with irritation, flared up. He yelled loudly, snatched the crayons, and accidentally hit his son's hand. The child screamed, his eyes filled with fear, a small bruise gradually appearing on his tender arm. It was then that Nam suddenly realized he had done something wrong. He looked at his son, his heart full of regret. His son was just a child. He didn't fully understand what he was doing. He just wanted to draw the world in his imagination. And yet, because of a momentary fit of anger, he sowed fear in his child and an indelible wound in his own heart. That night, Nam couldn't sleep. He told himself, "If only I had just stayed silent, taken a deep breath, everything would have been different." From the next day, Nam started a new habit. Whenever he felt himself about to get angry, he would stop, say nothing. Just take a deep breath and exhale slowly. He would close his eyes for a few seconds, feeling his heartbeat. Just that, and the anger would subside somewhat. He realized that a minute of anger could lead to a lifetime of regret. But just stopping for a minute to breathe, to be silent, we can maintain peace for our family. Mr. Nam's story is also the story of so many people. In a minute of anger, we can do things that we will regret forever. But fortunately, anger is not immutable. It comes and goes like a cloud passing across the sky. If we know how to stop, observe, and not feed it, the cloud will dissipate, and the sky of our mind will be clear again. The Buddha taught that conquering thousands of armies is not as great as conquering oneself. Conquering oneself is the most glorious victory. Anger is an inner enemy, and to conquer it, we need mindfulness. Mindfulness is simply awareness in every moment. When angry, we know we are angry. When our heart beats fast, we know our heart is beating fast. When our breathing is rapid, we know our breathing is rapid. Just by recognizing it like that, the anger already begins to subside. To practice, right now, you can try sitting with a straight back, relaxing your shoulders, and gently closing your eyes. Take a deep breath, feeling the air enter, then exhale slowly, feeling the release. Silently remind yourself, I know I am breathing in. I know I am breathing out. If there is any irritation in your heart, place it in your breath. Each time you breathe in, invite peace. Each time you breathe out, let the anger dissipate. With just a few breaths, you will feel lighter. When you practice regularly, anger will no longer flare up easily. Instead of yelling, you will choose silence. Instead of retaliating, you will choose to stop. And that stopping is the key to maintaining peace. Remember that 1 minute of anger can destroy so many good things, but 1 minute of silence can save everything. Many people think silence is weakness, but in fact, silence in the face of anger is the greatest strength, because at that moment, we are not controlled by emotions. We master ourselves. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that there is no harm greater than hatred, and no benefit greater than forbearance. When we nurture anger, we burn our own mind. But when we cultivate forbearance, our heart is like cool water, extinguishing a burning fire. And forbearance here does not mean passive endurance or weakness, but the power of awareness, knowing when to stop, to breathe, to choose peace instead of conflict. If in a family, each member knows to stop when angry, to breathe instead of yelling, then the home will surely be more peaceful. If in the workplace, people know how to listen, instead of arguing, the atmosphere will be more pleasant. And if in society, everyone knows how to yield instead of contend, this world will have much less suffering. Therefore, controlling anger is not just about preserving relationships and health, but also about nurturing long-lasting happiness. Anger only brings suffering, while peace brings true happiness. And that peace begins with the very awareness in each of your breaths. Perhaps in life, one of the greatest sufferings everyone has experienced is the feeling of injustice and disappointment. We often look at things only through the eyes of lack and loss, then conclude that life is truly harsh. When something doesn't go our way, we often exclaim, "Why me? Why is everything so bad?" That perspective is like a pair of dark glasses obscuring all of life's light. Even though flowers are blooming, the breeze is cool, and the sun shines brightly outside, we only see shades of gloomy gray. And it is this mistaken way of seeing that becomes the cause of so much suffering in each person's heart. If we observe carefully, we will see that no event is inherently entirely good or entirely bad. An incident, an event, may sometimes be a misfortune in one person's eyes, but an opportunity in another's. Just like a sudden rain shower is an annoyance for a street vendor, but for a farmer waiting for rain, it is happiness. It's the same event, but depending on the perspective, we perceive it differently. Therefore, a right or wrong perspective not only determines our current emotions, but also the direction of our entire life. The reason many people often choose the wrong perspective is due to psychological habits. Humans are inherently easily drawn into negative thoughts, quick to exaggerate losses, and minimize blessings. When something sad happens, we immediately think about what we've lost, rarely asking ourselves what we can learn or gain from it. That habit makes our mind like a piece of land where only seeds of sorrow are sown. And of course, only gloomy weeds grow from it, rarely vibrant flowers. Another consequence of wrong perception is that we lose our life energy. When we see failure and hurt, we gradually become desperate, discouraged, and lose faith in ourselves. Some people, due to a mistaken perspective, miss opportunities for change, miss an entirely new and brighter direction. Some people endlessly cling to resentment, thereby tying themselves to the past and no longer daring to move forward. Like that, they suffer not because of external events, but because of the distorted view of their inner self. There's a small story that the Lin Ung Buddhist channel wants to share with you about a man named Hung. He was a diligent office worker, having worked at a company for nearly 10 years. One day, the company announced layoffs due to financial difficulties. Hung was on the layoff list. The shock sent him into a state of crisis. Each morning, he woke up, feeling as if his life had lost all meaning. He wondered why he was eliminated. Did all his years of effort no longer hold any value? For many weeks, he lived in gloom, worrying about the future, even suffering from chronic insomnia. But then, by chance, as he walked past a small carpentry workshop in his neighborhood, Hung stopped to watch a craftsman shaping wood into a table. The faint scent of wood and the steady rhythm of the chisel reminded him of a childhood passion. As a child, he had loved working with wood, once dreaming of becoming a carpenter, but due to family pressure, he chose an office career. The fire of passion within him, once buried under the necessities of life, suddenly reignited. From that day on, Hung began to think differently. He realized that losing his office job was not the end, but an opportunity to return to his old passion. He applied for an apprenticeship at the carpentry workshop, accepting a start from scratch, learning every saw stroke, every chisel line. Initially, it was difficult, and his income was meager, but every day, living with his passion, he felt his heart warm and free. Many years later, he opened a small shop, creating exquisite handcrafted products that many people loved. Looking back, he smiled. If he hadn't lost his job that year, he probably would never have dared to step out of his cramped office chair. Hung's story shows us a simple yet profound truth. With the same event, if we look at it through the eyes of failure, we will only see despair. But if we look at it with eyes of learning, we will see opportunity. Changing our perspective doesn't make difficulties disappear, but helps us open a new path. And often, that very change becomes a major turning point in life. Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "When you change your way of looking, the world you look at changes." That is not just a philosophical saying, but a truth manifested in every day of life. When we look at others with compassion, we see that they are also human beings with suffering like ourselves, and naturally, our anger lessens. When we see a failure as a lesson, we feel our heart gain strength. When we look at life with gratitude, we see that happiness is always present. You can practice this in your daily life right now. Whenever you encounter something that makes you sad, stop and list 2 columns. One column is what you lost. The other column is what you can learn or gain. From that, you will be surprised to realize that even in loss, there is gain. When one door closes, another always opens. It's just whether we are willing to turn our head to see it or not. Another way is to practice looking at life with a grateful mind. Every morning when you wake up, take a deep breath and tell yourself, "Today, I can still breathe. still live. That is already a gift. Smile at a hot cup of tea, at the morning sunlight, at the smile of a loved one. When we are grateful for small things, we will see that this life has never lacked happiness. And when our perspective has changed, we will no longer be bound by suffering. Remember that happiness does not lie in external events, but in how we perceive those events. A person can live in a luxurious villa, yet always feel deprived, still experiencing suffering. Another person lives in a simple house, but knows how to appreciate every meal, every laugh, and feels contented. Therefore, the foundation of happiness is not circumstance, but each person's perspective. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought. If one speaks or acts with a pure mind, happiness follows him, like a shadow that never leaves. This verse reminds us that happiness or suffering both begin in the mind. When the mind looks at life with bright eyes, even in adversity, we still find peace. But when the mind is clouded by a negative view, even in a prosperous place, we still find suffering. So the profound lesson here is that changing perception is changing the entire inner world. Once we adjust our perspective, we will see life as more expansive, lighter. The right perspective not only helps us overcome difficulties, but also helps us cultivate lasting happiness. And from there, we are no longer swept away by life's suffering, but walk freely on the path of peace. There's a very familiar suffering in life that many people, especially women in families, tend to fall into. That is the act of constantly caring for others to the point of forgetting oneself. A mother might stay up late and wake up early to care for her children's studies. A wife might toil all day, preparing meals, doing housework, and also working to earn money. All of this stems from love. But in that sacrifice, sometimes we forget that we ourselves also need rest, also need care. Then, one day, when our health is depleted and our spirit is weary, we realize that love given to others without self-love will sooner or later turn into exhaustion. The deep-seated reason for this situation is that many of us have been taught from childhood to live for others, to sacrifice for family happiness. That is not inherently wrong, but if misunderstood, it becomes a burden. We keep thinking that if we just keep giving, just try a little harder, everyone will be peaceful. But we forget that we ourselves are also a part of the family, a part of life. If we are exhausted, our dearest loved ones will also be affected. It's like a lamp that can only shine when it still has oil, still has energy. If we are depleted, the light of love will also disappear. The consequences of neglecting oneself are very clear: declining health, mental unrest, leading to irritability and quick temper. At that point, we might be tired and unintentionally hurt the very people we want to care for. Many wives and mothers fall into prolonged stress, feeling both sad and resentful, but don't know the real reason is simply that they've forgotten to care for themselves. And so, the cycle of suffering continues to repeat. There's a small story about Ms. Thu, an ordinary woman, in whom I believe many will see a reflection of themselves. She worked as a sales clerk at a supermarket. Her monthly salary wasn't high, but enough to get by. She had 2 young children attending school, and her husband worked far away on a construction site. Almost all household chores fell on her shoulders. Her day began at 5 a.m., cooking, preparing her children for school, then rushing to work. After her evening shift, she'd rush home to cook dinner, help her children with homework, and clean up. Late at night, when everyone else was asleep, she'd quickly do laundry and organize for the next day. Day after day, month after month, it went on like this. At first, she thought she was doing all this out of love for her family, believing that with a little more effort and a little more sacrifice, everyone would have enough. But gradually, her body started to speak up. Headaches, backaches, and insomnia became frequent. She dismissed them, thinking she just needed to endure it. Then, one morning, she fainted right at work. The doctor concluded she was exhausted, malnourished, and needed a long period of rest. Lying in the hospital bed, she suddenly understood. For all these years, she had cared for everyone, but never for herself. During her treatment days, she met others in similar situations. Some were successful entrepreneurs, working tirelessly to the point of collapse. Others were mothers of 3, constantly worrying about their families, to the point of debility. She began to understand a simple truth she had never considered before. Loving oneself is not selfishness. It is a responsibility. Only when we are healthy and peaceful can we continue to love others sustainably. After being discharged from the hospital, Ms. Thu changed her habits. She learned to make time for herself, for moments of quiet. In the morning, instead of rushing, she woke up a little earlier to breathe and do some gentle yoga exercises. In the evening, after her children were asleep, she would sit quietly for a few minutes, writing down things she was grateful for. She also began to pay attention to eating well and sleeping at regular hours. And she realized that when she was happy and healthy, her children also smiled more, and the atmosphere in the family became lighter. Ms. Thu's story gives us a valuable lesson. To love others, one must first know how to love oneself. If we only give without replenishing, it's like drawing water from a dry well. But when we know how to nourish our body and mind, we are like a stream, always full, always clear, able to flow endlessly without drying up. Zen. Master Thich Nhat Hanh once taught that self-love is the foundation of all love. When we know how to turn inward to care for our breath, our body, and the emotions in our heart, the energy of compassion naturally grows. And only that energy can then spread out, embracing those around us. Loving oneself is not just thinking about oneself, but knowing how to keep oneself strong, to become a safe refuge for others. You can start with small things right away. Allow yourself to rest when tired. Allow yourself to eat a truly delicious meal when hungry. Practice sitting quietly for a few minutes each day, placing your hand on your chest, listening to your heartbeat to remind yourself that this body also needs love. Practice writing down things you enjoy doing, and each week, do at least one of them. And most importantly, practice speaking kindly to yourself. Don't blame yourself. Don't torment yourself when you're not perfect. Practice another simple exercise. Right now, you can close your eyes and take a deep breath. As you inhale, silently tell yourself, "I am returning to myself." As you exhale, silently tell yourself, "I am smiling at myself." Just a few minutes like that, and you will feel your heart settle, your body as if embraced. That is how we sow the seeds of self-love. There is a beautiful truth in Buddhism. Be a lamp unto yourselves. Rely on yourselves. It means we cannot forever rely on others to bring us peace. Only when we know how to rely on ourselves, care for ourselves, can we truly be safe. Others can accompany us, but no one can live our life for us. Therefore, self-reliance is not loneliness, but the strength to stand firm so that love can radiate fully from within. The Lin Ung Buddhist channel wants you to remember that cherishing yourself is not selfishness. It is the greatest gift you can give to yourself and to your loved ones. Only a healthy mother can raise healthy children. Only a happy husband can ensure a stable family. Only a child who knows self-love can bring peace of mind to their parents. So start by loving yourself, because only then will the love you give to others be truly deep and lasting. There's a very familiar suffering in life that each of us has experienced. Wounds from words. People are not always hurt by knives or sticks. Often, just a sentence, a word uttered in a moment of anger, can cut deep into another's heart like a sharp blade. Who among us has never heard a criticism that saddened us all day, or a reproach that weighed heavily on us for a whole month? And who among us has not smiled radiantly just because of a compliment, a gentle word of encouragement? It's enough to see that words have immense power. They can heal, or they can become cruel weapons. The cause of this suffering stems from the habit of lacking mindfulness in communication. We often speak without thinking, or think, but still lack sufficient restraint. Many people think words are just fleeting wind, said, and then gone. But in reality, words carry weight. They imprint themselves on the mind, becoming memories, beliefs, or obsessions. A negative statement can make the listener lose self-confidence, while a positive one can uplift an entire life. The consequences of unmindful speech are present everywhere in life. In families, parents unintentionally compare their child to friends. Why aren't you as good as others? And the child grows up with an inferiority complex. In love, an angry word can shatter months of happiness. At work, an indelicate criticism can make a colleague feel disrespected. Conversely, just a sincere thank you or a timely word of encouragement can create the motivation for others to move forward. The story of Teacher Fong and his student Min is a clear testament to the power of words. Min was a troublesome student in class, often ridiculed by friends as useless, not good for anything. Those repeated words gradually made Min believe he truly couldn't do anything. His grades were always low, and his attitude was dispirited. Teacher Fong observed and clearly saw the sadness in Min's eyes. Instead of scolding or punishing, he gently called Min over and said, "You have potential. Just need to try a little harder. I believe in you." At first, Min didn't believe it, but because the teacher repeated it many times, each time they met, he suggested something positive. Gradually, a new belief sparked in Min's heart. Min started to study a little more, do his homework more carefully. When the teacher praised him, "You're doing better now," Min's eyes lit up. And so, each word of encouragement from the teacher was like a drop of water falling onto the dry land of the child's soul. After a year, Min not only improved, but also became a good student. Teacher Fong's words changed an entire person's life. If a kind word can uplift a student, it can also uplift anyone around us. In Buddhist scriptures, it is taught that words are like honey, sweet, and nourishing. But sometimes, words are like poisoned arrows, causing pain in others' hearts. Therefore, we need to learn to speak truthfully, but kindly, to speak to bring joy and peace. You might ask, how can I practice this in daily life? It's actually very simple. Each day, reduce one word of blame and add one word of encouragement. When your child doesn't do well, instead of saying, "Why are you so bad?" try saying, "You've tried hard. With a little more effort, you'll be even better." When a colleague makes a mistake, instead of blaming, "You've messed everything up," try saying, "Let's review it together. I'm sure we'll find a better way." And when you yourself are tired, instead of blaming yourself for being awful, tell yourself, "I've done my best. Tomorrow will be better." A small exercise you can apply right now. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. As you exhale, recall a loved one. Silently say in your heart, "May you be peaceful." Just one sentence. But if nurtured with sincerity, you will feel your heart warm up. That is the power of words that nourish compassion. There is a beautiful metaphor in the scriptures. Words are like seeds sown in the soil of the soul. Good seeds sprout into flowers and fruits. Harmful seeds grow into weeds. Every day, we sow countless seeds in others' hearts with our words. If we know how to choose kind seeds, those around us will grow in joy and stability. Zen. Master. Thich Nhat Hanh once taught that mindful speech can create happiness and also heal suffering. That saying is like a gentle reminder that language is not just a means of communication, but also a bridge connecting hearts. When we speak with attentiveness and compassion, our words become a healing balm. Conversely, when we utter words in anger, those words are like a fire that burns everything. The Lin Ung Buddhist channel wants you to remember one thing. Words cost no money, but their value can be immense. A timely word of comfort can help someone stand up after a fall. A sincere word of encouragement can help someone rediscover themselves. And it is thanks to kind words that the world around us becomes lighter and more loving. Practice speaking words that nourish, words that encourage, words of gratitude. Because when we sow good words, we are sowing seeds of happiness for ourselves and for this life. In this life, perhaps the most difficult thing for many people is not arduous work or material deprivation, but learning to endure the losses, hurts, and injustices that life brings. There are times when we feel our hearts burning like fun, wanting to react immediately, wanting to utter harsh words or do something to vent our anger. But then, after the anger passes, we feel regret, realizing that our actions only made things worse. There are also times when we have to face an overwhelming event, losing everything we once had. At such times, the only way not to collapse is through forbearance. In Buddhism, forbearance is one of the important practices. Forbearance does not mean passively submitting, not silently suppressing emotions only to suffer more. Forbearance is steadfastness, the ability to keep the mind peaceful amidst all storms. When we know forbearance, we look at things with broader eyes, seeing that difficulty is just a phase, and pain is also temporary. Forbearance helps us not to react hastily in anger, nor to collapse when unexpected failure strikes. A person with forbearance is like a pine tree standing in a storm. No matter how strong the wind blows, they remain steadfast. The reason many people suffer is due to a lack of forbearance. Just a word that goes against our wishes irritates us. Just a small loss makes us complain bitterly. That hot-tempered mind is like a small fire. Even a gentle breeze can make it flare up fiercely, burning both oneself and others. The consequence of lacking forbearance is that we often ruin relationships, miss opportunities, or bring long-lasting suffering upon ourselves. Conversely, for those who know forbearance, troubles are small, pain passes quickly, and ultimately, they find a lighter path. There is an everyday story that can help us better understand the power of forbearance. It's the story of Mr. Quang, a fruit vendor at the wholesale market. He was a diligent man, waking up at 3:00 a.m. every day to get his stock. But one year, just as he had gathered all his capital to import a large shipment, a powerful storm unexpectedly hit. All the fruits were crushed and unsellable. In one night, Mr. Quang lost everything, from his capital to his confidence. He sat stunned amidst the warehouse, watching the damaged fruit boxes, tears falling. Friends advised him to find another job. Relatives worried because of the huge debt. In his heart, he only wanted to give up. But then in those darkest days, he suddenly remembered his father's words. Life's difficulties are like a river. If you rush to resist, you will be exhausted. But if you wait patiently, the river will pass. So Mr. Quang decided to start over. He couldn't pay off all his debt at once, so he patiently imported less stock, accepted small profits, and saved little by little. He learned to observe the market, choose goods more carefully, and calculate more meticulously. Some days he suffered losses, but he still gritted his teeth and endured. On tiring days, he told himself, just be patient, and success will come. And remarkably, after a few years, he not only paid off his debts, but also rebuilt a larger fruit stall than before. Mr. Quang's story is not just a lesson in resilience, but more profoundly, a lesson in forbearance. If he had let despair overwhelm him that day, he would have given up and lost everything. But thanks to patience, thanks to knowing how to let go of impatience, he overcame adversity to rebuild his life. As the Buddha taught, all suffering is impermanent. When we are patient and know how to wait, suffering will pass, and something new will come. In daily life, there are many ways to cultivate forbearance. One of the simplest ways is to practice breathing. When anger flares up, instead of hastily reacting, stop, take a deep breath, and exhale very slowly. Breath is the bridge that brings us back to calmness. You can also write down on paper the things that annoy you, then fold it up and set it aside. This is like entrusting your feelings to the paper so your mind can lighten. Once your mind has settled, you will see that things are not as serious as they seemed when anger was still overwhelming. Another exercise is to practice letting go. There are trivial matters in life that, if we dwell on them, only cause us more suffering. For example, someone's unintentional remark, a delay at work, or a criticism. Practice seeing them as clouds passing across the sky. Clouds may obscure the sun for a moment, but eventually the sky remains clear. When we know forbearance, those worries will also drift away, leaving a peaceful sky in our soul. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh taught that forbearance is not endurance. Forbearance is seeing deeply, seeing broadly. When we see impermanence, we can smile amidst suffering. This saying is truly a key. When we see that everything changes, that today's pain will also become a memory, we can smile and move on. Forbearance is knowing how to wait for time to soothe pain, knowing how to let perseverance rebuild faith. So if today you are sad, facing losses that seem insurmountable, remind yourself of forbearance. Don't despair hastily. Don't give up quickly. Breathe, wait, take small steps. Forbearance is not accepting defeat, but the path to firmly navigate through the storm. And when the storm passes, you will find yourself more mature, stronger, and your heart more expansive. I want to send you a gentle reminder from the Dhammapada. Conquering thousands of armies is not as great as conquering oneself. Conquering oneself is the most glorious victory. And conquering oneself here is learning forbearance. When we practice forbearance, we conquer anger, conquer despair, and conquer the suffering in our heart. That is the door that opens to a more peaceful and happier life. Perhaps in modern life today, one of the greatest sufferings many people carry in their hearts is the complexity they themselves create. We are complex in our thinking, complex in our way of life, complex in every relationship. Many times, just a small matter is blown up by us into something big. Just a glance, a passing word can make us ponder and analyze, then assign hundreds of meanings to it. The more we think, the more confused we become. The more we desire, the more disappointed we get. And the more we chase after these complexities, the more tired we feel, never feeling truly content. Have you noticed? The moments we feel most peaceful are often when everything is simple. Waking up one morning, hearing birds singing outside the window, taking a deep breath, without many worries, just feeling a lightness in our heart. An afternoon sitting with a cup of tea, watching the sunset, without desiring anything more, just feeling warmth. These things actually don't require much money, high prestige, or complex matters, but they bring us true happiness. In Buddhism, there is a simple yet profound teaching. Complexity gives rise to suffering. Simplicity gives rise to peace. Complexity is like knots in the mind. The tighter they are tied, the harder they are to untangle. Simplicity, on the other hand, is like a flowing stream, not clinging, not burdened. When we know how to let go of excessive desires, when we live more simply, our soul will naturally become lighter. The reason we become complex lies in our incessant desires. We desire more money, more recognition from others, fairer treatment from life. But the more we desire, the more dissatisfied we become, because life never fully goes our way. Those who praise are few. Those who criticize are many. No matter how much money we have, it still feels insufficient. Joy comes and goes quickly, while sadness lingers for a long time. The consequence of constantly chasing after these complexities is that we live in perpetual fatigue, never feeling content, never truly peaceful. Conversely, those who know how to live simply, no matter what life brings, still smile. They think little, speak little, desire little. Thinking little is not indifference, but not tormenting oneself with unnecessary interpretations. Speaking little is not sad silence, but knowing how to choose words and maintain inner tranquility. Desiring little is not living passively, but knowing how to appreciate what one has, not chasing after things beyond one's reach. That way of life brings great freedom, like putting down a heavy burden to walk lightly. The Lin Ung Buddhist channel wants to tell you a small story about Mr. Lam, a farmer over 70 years old. He lived in an old wooden house at the end of the village. The house was very simple. There were no valuable possessions. In his garden, he only grew a few rows of vegetables and raised a couple of chickens. His life seemed impoverished. Villagers passing by would often whisper to each other, "He must be very lonely and deprived." But surprisingly, whenever someone visited, they would see Mr. Lam with a gentle smile. Every morning, he woke up early to tend his vegetable garden, feed his chickens, then sat down to read a few pages of scripture. In the afternoon, he would recline and rest. In the evening, he would sit on his porch, drinking tea and chatting with a few old friends. When asked if he felt poor or suffering, he would just smile and say, "I have few desires, so I am peaceful. Seeing enough is enough. Seeing joy is joy." In reality, Mr. Lam didn't have much, but he also lacked nothing. Because the lack and suffering in life do not come from material things, but from a greed that never knows enough. A person with a magnificent villa can sometimes still feel empty. A person with great wealth can sometimes still feel insecure. But the old farmer in that old house lived a happy life because he knew how to simplify everything. Mr. Lam's story reminds me of the teaching in the Majjhima Nikaya. To know contentment is to be rich. To live simply is to be happy. When we have few desires, we will have less disappointment. When we pay less attention to winning or losing, gaining or losing, our heart will lighten. And when the heart is light, happiness will naturally come. In daily life, there are many ways to practice living simply. One of the easiest ways is to practice letting go of trivial matters. There are things that are truly not worth our concern, but we keep holding on to them in our mind, only to cause ourselves suffering. An unintentional remark, a delay, a criticism. If we keep them, they will become burdens. But if we know how to smile and let them pass, they will vanish like clouds. Try closing your eyes. Take a deep breath. Then exhale, silently telling yourself, "I am letting this go." Doing so, you will feel your heart gradually lighten. Another exercise is to practice smiling in the face of adversity. When something doesn't go your way, instead of complaining, try to offer a gentle smile. A smile doesn't make difficulties disappear, but it helps your mind soften and lighten. Like a flower blooming in a storm, still fresh despite the wind and rain, a smile helps you navigate adversity without collapsing. Living simply doesn't mean giving up everything, but choosing to keep only what is truly essential in both material life and in your soul. You can start by tidying up your living space, discarding superfluous items. When your room is tidy, your mind is also tidier. You can also reduce useless concerns like comparing yourself to others or worrying about things that haven't happened. The fewer such complexities, the more open your heart. Zen. Master Thich Nhat Hanh once said, Simplicity is the most beautiful way of life. When our mind is simple, we can touch joy in every breath, every step. Indeed, happiness is not about how much we have, but about how much we appreciate. And that appreciation only comes when we live simply, not being pulled by endless desires. So if you find yourself tired of complications, try returning to simplicity. Slow down, breathe deeper, smile more. Think less, speak less, desire less. Practice living with what you have. Cherish every ordinary moment. You will realize that happiness is not far away. It lies right in the simple things around us. I want to send you a gentle reminder from the Samyutta Nikaya. The one who knows contentment is the richest. The one who is peaceful is the happiest. We don't need to run to find happiness on distant horizons, because true happiness only comes when we simplify life and smile at the present. There are pains in life that seem as though they can never be alleviated. We lose a loved one, a relationship, a belief, and the whole world seems to collapse. Many people carry resentment in their hearts, clinging to the past, wishing for what was lost to return. But life inherently does not conform to our wishes in that way. Flowers bloom and then wither. The moon waxes and then wanes. There is union, then separation. There is birth, then death. That is the eternal law that everyone must experience, but few can easily accept. If you pay attention, you will see that the greatest suffering of human beings comes from resisting the truth of impermanence. We want to hold on to something forever, but it changes. We want someone to stay by our side forever, but they leave. We want a happy feeling to last, but it too fades. It is precisely because we want everything to remain unchanged that we suffer. But when we know how to accept that everything flows and transforms, we feel light. There is a very beautiful image in Buddhism, a blooming flower. People often think a flower is most beautiful when in full bloom. But in reality, sometimes the moment a flower hasn't fully bloomed is the most beautiful, because it reminds us that everything is in an unending flow. If we try to hold on to that moment, we will be disappointed, because the flower will eventually wither. But if we know how to smile, appreciating the flower's beauty at every stage, from bud to full bloom, and then decay, we will feel much more at peace. The reason we suffer from impermanence is our greedy mind and clinging mind. We greedily hold on to what we like. We cling to what we want. The consequence is that when life doesn't go as expected, we resent. We torment ourselves. We lose faith. Some people live their entire lives in remembrance of a lost loved one, or in regret for a past that cannot be revisited. They are like prisoners in the dungeon of their own mind, unable to escape. But the truth is, what is lost cannot be kept. What has passed cannot be brought back. The more we resist, the more we hurt. Only when we know how to accept are we truly liberated. There is a story I want to tell you, the story of Mr. Min and his young daughter, Lin. Lin was a gentle, obedient child, always chirping beside her father. To Mr. Min, Lin was not just a daughter, but also his hope, the greatest light in his life. But then harsh fate struck. When Lin was only 10, doctors diagnosed her with a severe illness. Mr. Min ran everywhere, sold all his possessions, praying for a miracle to save his daughter. However, her condition worsened, and eventually, Lin passed away, leaving an unfillable void in Mr. Min's heart. On the day of the funeral, Mr. Min collapsed by his daughter's coffin, crying until his voice was hoarse. He couldn't believe that his beloved daughter had left the world at such a young age. Every evening, he sat before his daughter's altar, looking at her portrait, tears streaming down his face. He blamed heaven and earth, blamed fate, and blamed himself for being helpless. He even thought he couldn't go on living. But then, by chance, a friend took him to a pagoda. There, he heard the abbot preach about the principle of impermanence. The venerable master said that life is like a river. No drop of water retains its original form. There is birth, then death, union, then separation. We cannot keep our child by our side forever. But we can keep love in our heart, transforming pain into understanding, into a broader love. Your child is not lost, the master said. She has only embarked on a new journey. The important thing is for you to accept for your child to rest in peace, and for you yourself to find peace at day. First, Mr. Min found it hard to accept, but gradually he began to practice sitting quietly and breathing, listening to the sutras. Each time the longing for his daughter arose, he did not suppress it, nor did he run away, but let it flow through him like a river. He placed his hand on his chest and whispered, "Daddy misses you. But Daddy knows life is impermanence. Daddy will live peacefully so you can rest easy." As time passed, the pain in him was no longer as intense as before. Instead, there was a calmness, a gentle acceptance. He did not forget his child, but he learned to love her in a different way, no longer clinging, no longer resentful. Mr. Min's story might also resemble what you have experienced or will experience in life. Loss is something everyone must face. It could be losing a loved one, losing a love, or losing an opportunity. But if we keep resisting, we will torment ourselves. If we know how to accept, that pain will become a part of our journey of growth, nurturing understanding and compassion. There is a simple practice to learn to accept impermanence. Look at your breath. With each inhale, we know it won't last forever. Then it will go out. With each exhale, we know it also won't last forever. Then we will inhale again. It is that going away that makes the return precious. If we cling to one breath, we cannot breathe again. But if we let it go, only then can we live. So you can try sitting down, closing your eyes, taking a deep breath, then exhaling very slowly, and telling yourself, "Nothing lasts forever. I let go to live." Another exercise is to write down the things you are clinging to. It could be a person, a memory, or a deep-seated regret. Write it down on paper and look at it. Ask yourself, if this changes, can I accept it? You will see that often acceptance itself makes us strong. Then you can tear that paper as a way of letting go, not forgetting, but gently putting it down so your heart is no longer burdened. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh once taught that impermanence is not something to fear, but something to cherish in life. It is precisely because of impermanence that we learn to love each other more, to cherish every moment we still have together. If everything lasted forever, perhaps we would be indifferent. But because nothing lasts forever, every moment becomes a gift, an embrace, a smile, a warm word, all become priceless, because we know that one day they will no longer be there. When our mind knows contentment, we will find happiness even amidst impermanence. Contentment does not mean not striving, but not letting lack drag us into suffering. Contentment is smiling at what we have, not desiring what has not yet come. Contentment is cherishing this moment, knowing it will pass. And that very appreciation brings us deep peace. The Lin Ong Buddhist channel wants to remind you of a verse from the Dhammapada. All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one is released from suffering. Accepting impermanence does not make us lose anything. On the contrary, it grants us freedom. When we stop resisting the current, we truly flow gently. When we stop wanting to hold on to everything forever, we truly cherish every single moment. And when we know how to let go, only then are we truly happy. Have you ever found yourself sitting in a quiet room, yet your mind is constantly agitated? Sometimes it wanders back to past events. Sometimes it races to things yet to come. Sometimes you might be sitting with your family, but not truly present, because your mind is busy thinking about work, unfinished projects, or past mistakes. Strangely, although our body is in the present, our mind is rarely truly here, and that is why we suffer. That suffering is familiar to almost everyone. We regret what we have lost. We blame ourselves for missed opportunities. Then we worry about things yet to come. Will the future bring success or failure? Will illness strike? Will our children be safe? Our mind is like a monkey swinging from branch to branch, first clinging to yesterday, then leaping towards tomorrow. Meanwhile, the present moment, where we are truly living, is forgotten. The deep-seated reason for this is that we haven't understood the value of the present. The past is gone. It exists only in memory. The future hasn't arrived. It's merely imagination. Only this moment is real. Yet, people often live in illusion, partly due to habit, partly due to fear. We fear that if we don't think and worry, we will lose control. But the more we worry, the more we lose the actual life that is unfolding. The consequence is that we might work diligently our entire lives, but never truly live a single day to the fullest. There's a story I want to tell you. The story of Mr. Tuan, a small business owner. He was a diligent, hard-working man. He built his business from nothing. But with success came the burden of anxiety. During the day, he worried about orders, customers, and staff. At night, lying down, he'd think about the debts to be paid, the volatile market, the mistakes that had caused him losses. He rarely had a peaceful night's sleep. His wife and children would be eating next to him, but he seldom spoke to them because his mind had already raced to tomorrow's plans. One day, due to extreme stress, Mr. Tuan fell ill. His body weakened, and he had to be hospitalized for many days. It was during that time, when he couldn't throw himself into work, that he realized he had never truly lived all these years. He recalled the family meals he had missed, the times his children wanted to sit by him, but he pushed them away due to being busy. He also realized that no matter how much he worried, The future was always uncertain. No one could guarantee what tomorrow would bring. The only thing truly certain was the present moment, where he could take a deep breath, see the smiles of his loved ones, and feel that he was still alive. After recovering from his illness, Mr. Tuan changed a lot. He no longer worked recklessly to the point of forgetting himself, but focused more on balance. He spent time eating meals with his family. Occasionally, he would take his children for a walk, and in the mornings, he would sit quietly for a few minutes to breathe. He understood that money was important, but time and being present with each other were infinitely more precious. He learned a great lesson. The past is gone. The future has not arrived. Only the present is truly life. Mr. Tuan's story might also reflect a part of your own life. Perhaps you are regretting things that have happened, blaming yourself for not being good enough, not fast enough. Perhaps you are so busy worrying about things that haven't happened yet that you lose sleep and appetite. But do you realize that all those regrets and anxieties exist only in your mind? They are not real. The most real, the only thing you have, is this breath, this moment. If you miss it, you will never get it back. Zen. Master Thich Nhat Hanh once taught that we have a rendezvous with life, and that rendezvous is the present moment. If we miss this moment, we have missed life itself. Happiness does not lie in distant things, but right in a hot cup of tea, in the morning sunlight, in the laughter of children, in the embrace of a loved one. But to see that, we need to let go of unnecessary worries and return to the unfolding moment. You can start with a very simple practice. Breathe and smile. As you inhale, know that you are inhaling. As you exhale, smile at yourself. That smile is not because everything is perfect, but because you are cherishing the life that is present. Try it right now. Sit with a straight back, relax your shoulders, take a deep breath, then exhale very slowly. Feel the air enter and leave, and let a gentle smile bloom on your lips. Just a few seconds, and you will feel your heart settle. Another way is, whenever your mind wanders to the past or future, gently bring it back with a reminder. For example, you can whisper, "The present is life." When walking, feel each step. When eating, truly taste each bite, grateful to the person who cooked it. When someone speaks, listen fully, instead of thinking about other things. These seemingly small things can change the entire quality of your life. Some might ask, if we don't think about the future, how can we make progress? The answer is that we can still plan, but don't let ourselves get carried away. We can think about tomorrow, but then return to live fully today. Planning is necessary, but presence is happiness. Like a gardener, he can anticipate when the tree will flower. But the important thing is that every day he must still care for it, water it, and enjoy the sight of green leaves sprouting. When living in the present, you will realize that many of your sufferings are just illusions. Regrets about the past, anxieties about the future, all are products of the mind. Practicing returning to the present is the path to liberate ourselves from those invisible ties. And each moment you are present is also each moment you are truly alive. The Lin Ung Buddhist channel wants to reiterate a verse from the Majjhima Nikaya. Do not run to the past. Do not seek the future. dwell peacefully in the present, steadfast and free. Human life is short. Time passes quickly, like a cloud's shadow. If we keep living in things past or things yet to come, perhaps one day, when we look back, we will realize we have never truly lived. Therefore, cherish this moment, for it is the most precious gift life bestows. There are times when we sit in a crowded room, surrounded by laughter and chatter, yet feel an unusually profound emptiness inside. We might have hundreds of connections out there. We might know many people, but lack a true friend to share with. Inner loneliness makes us tired, even when standing in a crowd. And this is a suffering that quite a few people in modern life face. People often say that in this era, one can connect with anyone with just a click. But the more virtual connections we have, sometimes the fewer genuine relationships we possess. We exchange superficial greetings, shallow questions. But when our heart needs support, sometimes we don't know who to call. Money, fame, social status. These things can give us a wide circle, but not necessarily a warm embrace. And then, in the most difficult times, we realize that the most precious asset in life is not money, but sincere friendship. The reason many people lack true friendship often stems from paying more attention to external appearances than to inner sincerity. We choose friends because they are successful, because they can bring us benefits, or because they make us feel more valued. But such relationships often only last as long as there's a benefit. Once we fall on hard times, those relationships can vanish like smoke. Sometimes we ourselves unintentionally neglect true friends, chasing after glittering things out there, and by the time we turn back, it's too late. In Buddhism, there is a teaching about the concept of kalyana mitta, meaning wholesome friends, those who can accompany us on the path of spiritual practice and wholesome living. A sincere friend is a kalyana mitta who enlightens us when we are confused, supports us when we fall, and reminds us when we are lost. To have such a friend, one's life has already become rich. There's a story I want to recount. The story of Hai and Dung, two close friends since childhood. They grew up together in a poor rural area, sharing meager meals of rice and sweet potatoes, and walking the same red dirt road to school. That friendship seemed simple, yet it was deeply etched in their hearts. As they grew up, each took a different path. Hai studied economics, moved to the city to start a career. Dung stayed in the countryside, working as a mechanic. Despite the geographical distance, their friendship never faded. Then an incident occurred. After many years of working in the city, Hai became unemployed. He lost his job, lost his income. Those who had once surrounded him gradually drifted away. Calls became less frequent. The handshakes of yesteryear now felt cold. In that uncertain period, he clearly felt loneliness and shame. But there was one person who didn't abandon him: Dung. Even though he wasn't wealthy, Dung still sent a little money to help, still called to encourage him, still spoke warm words. "You're not alone. I'm here." It was thanks to Dung's presence that Hai gradually lifted his spirits. He began to regain faith, picked himself up, and looked for a new job. Many years later, when he was successful and had a stable career, Hai always spoke of that friendship with deep gratitude. He said, "Money I can earn back, but Dung's sincere friendship is a lifelong treasure." That story makes us pause and reflect. In times of collapse, a handhold, a word of comfort, can sometimes be worth more than 100 measures of gold. You don't need many sincere friends, just one, but one who is truly there when you are at your weakest. And if you are lucky enough to have one, know how to cherish, preserve, and nurture it. To cultivate a strong friendship, we don't need grand gestures. Instead, start with small acts of sincerity. Learn to listen when a friend needs to express themselves, instead of hastily offering advice. Learn to care through simple actions. A text message checking in, a hug when you meet again, and most importantly, truly be present. When sitting with a friend, let your mind be there, not busy with your phone or work. You can try a small practice. Today, call a friend you haven't contacted in a long time, not to ask for a favor or for superficial chatter, but simply to ask, "How have you been lately?" Say, "I miss you," if it's true. Such words may be small, but they touch the heart and nurture long-lasting friendship. In life, there will be times when you feel lonely or see friends you once trusted leave. Don't rush to blame, because impermanence is a natural law. Remember that instead of seeking many friends, cherish those who truly stay. And you yourself should become a sincere friend to someone. When we give sincerity, we are also sowing the seeds of lasting friendship. Zen, Master. Thich Nhat Hanh once taught, "There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path itself." It's the same in friendship. You don't need to wait until your friend helps you to appreciate them. Rather, in every encounter, every shared word, you can already feel happiness. A cup of tea shared, a walk by the river, a silent moment of mutual understanding. All are treasures. I want to reiterate a verse from the Dhammapada. Fools associate with the evil. The wise associate with the good. Life doesn't need many superficial relationships. Just one sincere friendship is already an invaluable asset. If you have such a friend in your life, know that you are richer than many people. And if you are searching, start by opening your heart, living sincerely. And then karma will naturally bring a spiritual friend to you. There's a very strange thing in life. When someone accidentally does something that hurts us, we often only remember that wound and forget all the good things that person once gave us. The pain caused by a mistake is like an ink drop falling onto a white sheet of paper. Even if it's just a tiny dot, it makes us only see it, forgetting that the entire paper remains pristine, vast, and pure. Because of this, we often push ourselves into suffering, constantly looking at others' mistakes and nurturing blame and resentment in our hearts. In reality, no one is perfect. Everyone has moments of weakness. Everyone stumbles sometimes. If we only look at those imperfections, our heart will forever live in tension and lose the ability to love. In the closest relationships, especially within the family, this is even more apparent. How many couples break up simply because they cannot forget each other's mistakes? How many children are estranged from their parents because they endlessly cling to past scoldings? How many beautiful friendships crack due to a small misunderstanding? Actually, if we can recall the times the other person was good to us, had shown us puar, we will find our heart softening, becoming more forgiving. Because compassion is not just forgiving others, but also a gift we give ourselves, helping our mind find peace. The Lin Ong Buddhist channel recalls once reading a Buddhist teaching that when our mind harbors hatred, we are the first to be burned. Indeed, when we cling to others' mistakes in our heart, we live in suffocation. Each time we recall it, anger surges, our heart tightens, our vision dims. But if we change our perspective, knowing to retain good images, we will feel our heart much lighter. Haven't we all had adorable moments in life and things that made us smile? If only we are willing to return to those things, our heart will become more open. The story of Mr. Bin and Ms. Hoa is a vivid illustration of this. When he was young, Mr. Bin was a gentle, hard-working husband, utterly devoted to his wife and children. But then, over time, he fell into alcoholism. Each time he was drunk, he couldn't control his words and actions, often making Ms. Hoa cry secretly. Outsiders, looking in, all advised her to let go, because keeping such a husband would only bring suffering. But in Ms. Hoa's heart, the image of a husband who loved his wife and children and worked hard was still there. She didn't forget the years he toiled to support the whole family. She didn't forget his gentle smile in the early days of their marriage. She didn't forget how he worried when she was ill. It was precisely because she always kept those good memories in her heart that she patiently advised her husband. Each time he stumbled, she gently encouraged him. At first, Mr. Bin dismissed her, but then one day, seeing his wife's patient eyes, he cried. He decided to quit drinking. The path wasn't easy, but thanks to his wife's understanding and love, he gradually overcame it. The family found happiness again after years of instability. This story shows us an important truth. If Ms. Hoa had only focused on her husband's mistakes, perhaps the family would have broken apart long ago. But because she knew how to hold on to the bright spots in her memory, love remained. And that very love became the strength for Mr. Bin to change. Sometimes, forgiveness is not just about pardoning, but also a bridge for others to return to the path of wholesome living. When we sow seeds of compassion, the fragrant flowers of happiness will bloom sooner or later. Perhaps you also have a relationship that causes you suffering. Perhaps you still vividly remember the hurts caused by loved ones. But try to pause, take a deep breath, and recall if, throughout your journey together, that person ever did anything that moved you, that warmed your heart. A meal hastily cooked when you were tired. A word of encouragement during your failures. A hand extended when you collapsed. If you allow your mind to return to those memories, you will see that that person was not just mistakes, but also countless acts of love. In practice, you can try a simple method. Whenever anger arises towards someone in your heart, stop for a few seconds, breathe slowly, then close your eyes. Recall a moment when they treated you well. Just hold that image for a few minutes, and you will feel the tension in your body decrease, your gaze soften, your heart warm. You can also write down 3 good things you have received from that person. Writing it down will help engrave it deeper in your mind, so that whenever resentment arises, you can look back and feel your heart soften. An old saying goes, "He who sows good seeds will reap fragrant flowers." When we sow gratitude and forgiveness in our heart, the flower of peace will bloom in our mind first. Forgiveness is not forgetting, nor is it accepting continued harm, but knowing to retain the good part so as not to harm our own mind. Whether others change or not depends on karma/conditions. But certainly, when we let go of hatred, we have already liberated ourselves. So try to change your perspective for once. Don't just remember the mistakes. Remember the good qualities too. Don't let a small ink blot obscure the vast white paper. Look at the bright side of people, for that light will illuminate the path for both you and the other person. And when we know how to be tolerant of mistakes, that is when we are teaching our heart to love in a more mature and lasting way. There is a truth that each of us understands, but often forgets in the hurried pace of life. Time never waits for anyone. Time is like a silently flowing river. Whether we are happy or sad, successful or failing, healthy or sick, that river continues to sweep away each moment, each second of human life. Many times we think we are still young, still have many opportunities, still have plenty of time to love, to show filial piety, to care for ourselves and our loved ones. But when we look back, we are startled to realize our hair has turned gray, our eyes have dimmed, and our own youth has passed its halfway mark. At that moment, regret suddenly wells up in our heart, a remorse that cannot be undone. Time is life's great teacher. But unfortunately, not everyone is willing to learn that lesson early on. We only truly understand the value of time when we have lost precious moments, when a loved one passes away, or when our own health is no longer intact. Young people often think life is long, opportunities are many. But the truth of impermanence always reminds us that no one knows what tomorrow will bring. Each day, we can still breathe, still watch the sunrise, still hear the laughter of loved ones. All are priceless gifts that we often fail to cherish. The Zen Buddhist channel wants to tell you a very ordinary, everyday story, yet one that contains a profound lesson about impermanence and gratitude for time. The main characters in this story are a young man named An Kwa and his mother, Mrs. Tu. An Kwa was inherently ambitious. From a young age, he worked hard in his studies, and as an adult, he moved to the city to start a career. He wanted to devote his entire mind to working, earning money, and building his own career. Deep down, he believed that only when he succeeded and had enough money could he return to fulfill his filial duty to his mother. However, this very thought gradually estranged him from his family. Each time his mother called, he would often answer hastily, then say he was busy with work. His visits home to see his mother became increasingly infrequent, from once a month to every 3 months, then half a year, until sometimes it was only once a year. He consoled himself that his mother was still well, still waiting for him, and that he had plenty of time to show filial piety. Then one day, while busy at work, he received a call from a neighbor informing him that his mother had fallen seriously ill. Dropping everything, he rushed back. In the small room in his hometown, he saw his mother lying in bed, her face thin, her dim eyes looking at her son with a mix of joy and heartache. His mother's handshake, then, was weak and trembling, as if wanting to hold on to time. He sat by the bed, holding his mother's hand, his heart filled with regret. During his busy days in the city, he had traded away so many opportunities to be with his mother, to hear her stories, to see her gentle smile. Now that his mother was ill, he clearly saw that all the money and career were not as important as the simple moment spent with his mother. After a long period of treatment, and thanks to her resolve, his mother gradually recovered. But that incident changed An Kwa forever. He learned to organize his work, spending more time visiting his mother, no longer considering filial piety something to wait for until success, but something to be done immediately, every single day. He understood that time is like water flowing through one's fingers. No one can hold on to it. If not cherished in time, all that will remain is regret. And more importantly, he realized that his mother didn't need him to show filial piety with lavish money, but only with love, presence, a shared meal, a sincere inquiry. The story of An Kwa and his mother is perhaps also a reflection of many of us. We often think we can wait, that time is infinite, that love can be expressed tomorrow. But tomorrow is never a certainty. Today we can still call out Mom or Dad and hear them respond. That is already a great blessing. How many people out there, when they call out Mom, only hear an echo in their memories? Only then do we understand what too late means. The Buddha taught that human life is impermanent. Birth, old age, sickness, and death are laws no one can escape. Time is the invisible bell reminding us of that truth. In the Dhammapada, there is a verse: "The foolish think they have many days, will live long, but life is short, and death always comes unexpectedly." That is not a threat, but a call to awakening. When we understand that time is finite, we will know how to cherish every moment, live more deeply in the present, and love while we still can. Try to recall, how many times have you missed the opportunity to say loving words to family members just because you were busy? How many times have you postponed gatherings, trips home, family meals, just thinking, tomorrow is fine? And then, when tomorrow is no more, we realize the cost of that hesitation. Time is a strict teacher, because once it's gone, it never returns. Try a small exercise right now. You can sit down, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Think about your parents. If they are still alive, visualize their faces, their smile, their hands, their familiar voice. If they have passed away, recall the most beautiful memories of times you were with them. Then open your eyes, pick up your phone, and call your father or mother just to ask a simple question. Mom, Dad, how have you been lately? Don't wait until you succeed. Don't wait until you're free. Do it as soon as you can. An ordinary inquiry today can become a priceless memory tomorrow. If your parents are no longer with you, you can practice gratitude for time in a different way. Write down on paper the things you wish to say to your parents. Consider it a letter sent into the void. When you do this, you will feel your heart lighten, because love is never lost. It only transforms into a different energy that supports you in life. Being grateful for time also means knowing how to care for your own health, because this body is the boat that carries us through the river of life. One day, you are still healthy, still able to walk, still able to eat, drink, breathe. That is a great blessing. Many people, when young, are engrossed in work, neglecting their bodies, and only when illness strikes do they understand that money cannot buy back health. Time has taught them a painful lesson. Therefore, don't wait until you are sick to appreciate your breath, but learn to cherish it right now by eating healthy, exercising regularly, sleeping adequately, and keeping your soul peaceful. Time also teaches us to cherish family ties, friendships, and human connections. Sometimes, just a thoughtless word, a small fit of anger, can separate us from someone for a lifetime. But only after losing them do we realize how meaningless that anger was. Time teaches us that what's important is not who was right or wrong, but whether we managed to love and forgive each other in time. Try another practice. You can write down 3 things you are grateful for today. Perhaps it's watching the sunrise this morning, a simple meal with family, or a caring message from a close friend. When you learn to see such small things, you will find every day passing is precious. Instead of complaining that time flies too fast, you will be grateful for having lived fully within it. There's a beautiful saying, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift." That's why in English, the present is called present, meaning a gift. If you are still breathing, still hearing these words, it means you hold a priceless gift in your hands. Don't let it slip away unconsciously, in meaningless busyness, in anger or worry. Live mindfully. Live gratefully. Live fully. When you are grateful for time, you will also learn to let go of regret. Because the past is gone and cannot be revisited, clinging to it only brings more suffering. The future has not arrived. The more you worry, the more anxious you become. Only when you are grateful for the present moment will you truly find peace. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "A miracle is not to walk on water or to fly in the air, but to walk on the earth in the present moment." Time is teaching us that. We just need to listen. To conclude this section, I want to send you a gentle reminder. Don't wait to love. Don't delay showing filial piety. Don't miss out only to regret it. Time is a great teacher, but also a kindred friend. If we are grateful and cherish it, time will grant us moments of peace and happiness. But if we disregard and waste it, time will leave us with painful lessons. Remember the story of An Kwa and his mother as a cautionary tale. Look back at your life and ask yourself, have I truly lived today? Have I loved in time? Have I said thank you to important people in time? If not, then right now is the best time. Because time does not wait, but we always have the right to choose how to live in each moment and in the quiet flow of life. When we are grateful for time, we will see that each passing day is not a loss, but another opportunity for us to love, to practice, to live a meaningful life. That is the most precious gift that time bestows. In human life, suffering seems unavoidable. Some sufferings come from loss, some from unfulfilled expectations. And some sufferings come from our own mind that refuses to let go. Some are sad because relationships don't go as desired. Some are tormented because work is not smooth. Others suffer from illness or from social injustices. When suffering comes, we often blame fate, blame others, and sometimes even blame ourselves. But have you ever asked yourself if suffering doesn't just come from external circumstances, but also from our own way of perceiving things? If, in the same situation, some complain and grieve, but others remain calm and smile, where does the difference lie, if not in our gradual way of looking? The Buddha once taught that life is inherently a sea of suffering, but suffering can be transformed if we know how to look at it with the eye of wisdom. How we look at life will determine whether we live in suffering or in peace. Changing our perspective is not denying reality, but learning to accept it with an open heart and a clear mind. When facing difficulties, if we only see loss, we will despair. But if we know how to see the lesson, we will grow. When hurt by others, if we only focus on the wound, we will suffer endlessly. But if we know how to look with compassion, we will see it as an opportunity to practice forgiveness and tolerance. Try to imagine someone walks down the street and it rains. One person gets angry because they're wet, complaining about the weather. Another smiles, opening their heart to enjoy the rain as a gift of nature. The same rain, but different perspectives lead to different experiences. Life is also like that rain. We cannot control it, but we can choose our attitude towards it. I want to tell you a small story that hides a big lesson. Once upon a time, a Zen master lived in a small temple on a mountain. One day, the temple unexpectedly caught fire. Everything turned to ashes. His disciples panicked, complaining bitterly about losing all their possessions, scriptures, and even their refuge. But the Zen master sat calmly gazing at the sky and said, "How beautiful! For the first time, I see tonight's moon in its entirety, unobstructed by the temple roof." That statement awakened his disciples. They realized that it was the same event, but the master saw it with eyes of peace, while they saw it with fear. And simply by changing their perspective, that event was no longer just a loss, but could also be an opportunity to see a new beauty, a new truth of life. That story is also like our journey. If we keep looking at suffering, we will be buried in darkness. But if we know how to change our perspective, we will see that suffering is also a teacher, teaching us to grow, teaching us to appreciate happiness. In reality, happiness is not far away. It is hidden in every ordinary moment. It's just that we missed it because we kept looking at what wasn't as desired. 2 small practices you can apply right now are to take a deep breath and then silently tell yourself, "I am here. I am alive. I am grateful for this moment." Just such a reminder, and you will feel your mind calm down and lighten, realizing that the present moment is a precious gift. You can also try writing down 3 things you are grateful for today, even small things like drinking a cool glass of water, listening to your favorite music, or talking to a friend. When you practice seeing these things, you will find life is full of reasons to smile. And don't forget, changing your perspective is not just to reduce your own suffering, but also to spread peace and joy to those around you. When you change, you will become lighter, less judgmental, more attentive. Your loved ones will feel that peaceful energy, and they themselves will feel happier when they are near you. This is the marvelous power of inner change. There's a great saying that you cannot control the direction of the wind, but you can adjust your sails. Life is the same. We cannot control everything, but we can adjust our mind. When the mind is at peace, life will be peaceful. When the mind is clear, life will be clear, and every suffering will become a lesson for us to grow, rather than a burden that makes us collapse. As we have journeyed together through each section and story, you must have also felt that changing one's perspective is the key to unlocking a new life. There's no need to go searching for happiness far away. Just by learning to look at everything with gratitude, with tolerance, with the light of wisdom, happiness is already present in daily life. Now, as we conclude, I just want to send you a wish for true peace. May everyone listening to these words find lightness in their soul. Let go of unnecessary burdens, lessen resentment, reduce endless desires. May you learn to smile at yourself, smile at life, so that each passing day is no longer a series of endurance, but a journey of enjoyment. If you can right now, close your eyes. Listen to a very deep breath. Imagine a gentle light radiating from your heart, spreading throughout your body, then extending to your loved ones, and further to all sentient beings. Wish that everyone finds peace, lessens their suffering, and increases their happiness. In that moment, you will see that you are no longer alone, but merged into a vast stream of energy, of love, and peace. Zen. Master Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Peace is present in every step, in every breath. When you are peaceful, the world around you is also peaceful." So practice walking each step peacefully on this earth, breathing each conscious breath, and living each day as if it were a gift. Finally, the Lin Ung Buddhist channel sends you blessings, wishing you and your family abundant health, bright spirits, and a life path always filled with faith, love, and the light of wisdom. May all suffering within you be transformed into peace and joy. And may, as gentle meditation music plays, you allow your mind to be as free as a clear stream flowing through, washing away all dust and leaving only purity and peace.